Okay, picture this. You're standing in the freezing upper atmosphere of Neptune, right? Just staring out the thick diamondoid windows of the Prometheus orbital station at these massive supersonic storms of methane and ammonia. It is a hostile, utterly alien environment that would literally obliterate an ordinary human in seconds. But the protagonist of today's explainer, Kalen, well, he isn't an ordinary human. He is perfectly at home out there in the freezing dark. Today, we're exploring the absolutely breathtaking biological engineering of a species designed not just to survive the cosmos, but to completely conquer it. Let's get into the anatomy of Homo stellaris. So, to really understand how radically different Kalen is, we just have to look at his morning ritual. He doesn't wake up and pour a cup of coffee like we do. No, he drinks a viscous, incredibly heavy glass of 99.99% pure deuterium oxide, heavy water. And within like 90 seconds, those heavy hydrogen isotopes pass through graphene-reinforced capillaries and slip right into his cells. He doesn't consume calories to burn them for energy. Actually, as this quote beautifully points out, his food is literally just building material. The heavy water, that's his actual fuel. Now, what's absolutely fascinating here is what Kalen actually represents. He's Homo stellaris, which is basically a true child of the atomic age. Think about it. For our entire history, humanity has kept fire on the outside, right? In our hearths, our car engines, our power plants. But Kalen's biology brings that fire inside. His cells have completely abandoned the fragile, kind of inefficient chemical bonds of ancient Earth biology. Instead, he runs on cold fusion. This isn't just a minor biological upgrade, it's a total decoupling from the rules that have governed life on Earth for literally 4 billion years. Section 1. ATP versus cold fusion. To truly grasp the magnitude of this leap, we really have to look at the fundamental bottleneck that trapped life on Earth for all those billions of years. Think of our legacy human engine. Every single time you move a muscle or fire a neuron, your cells break a chemical bond in an ATP molecule, which releases a tiny, microscopic spark of energy. And because that yield is so incredibly low, you and I have to consume staggering amounts of carbon-heavy fuel, carbohydrates, fats, and constantly breathe oxygen just to keep our inner fire from going out. We're constantly fighting off starvation and exhaustion. But the Homo stellaris solution? It completely abandons that whole system. They swapped out the chemical engine for a nuclear one, fusing deuterium nuclei together using just that heavy water. And the crucial point here is the staggering difference in output, 24 million electron volts. When you break an ATP bond, you get roughly 0.3 electron volts. But when Kalen's cells fuse two deuterium nuclei, it releases 24 million. That is an energy density tens of millions of times greater than the sharpest shooter rush a human could ever possibly experience. It's just raw, localized power. But it begs the question, how on earth does a biological cell contain a nuclear reaction without, just boiling instantly? Well, let's walk through how this works step by step inside Kalen's biology. His cells don't have mitochondria anymore. They have this synthetic organelle called the Fusosome. First, the heavy water is pulled into a pellatisse matrix, which is basically a lattice of biological proteins laced with palladium and nickel. Second, this matrix acts almost like a microscopic vise. It uses quantum tunneling to force the nuclei together, totally bypassing the immense heat and pressure you'd normally need for fusion. Third, they fuse, and this creates a high-energy alpha particle and an intense kinetic shockwave. Finally, the inner membrane of the fusosome is lined with piezoelectric proteins. They absorb that physical shockwave and convert it directly into high-voltage DC electricity. So, Kalen's cells are literally solid-state bioelectrical grids operating at the speed of light, completely leaving behind the slow speed of chemical diffusion. Section 2. The Homo stellaris operans. As you can imagine, when you become a walking thermal reactor at the cellular level, your entire macrostructure has to completely change just to handle the output. Kalen's baseline core temperature hovers at a scorching 45 degrees Celsius. That's 113 degrees Fahrenheit. He doesn't even have regular muscles. His are actuated by electromechanical proteins that snap shut with the force of industrial pistons. Actually, if he had ordinary calcium bones, they would literally shatter under the sheer torque his muscles generate. So his skeleton is woven with a biomineralized carbon nanotube matrix. His skin even has this shimmering iridescence to it because of a radioprotective melanin that shields his DNA from stray quantum radiation. And honestly, my favorite detail, because there's no chemical metabolic respiration, he doesn't breathe out carbon dioxide. Every time he exhales, it's just a steady and visible stream of pure inert helium. This completely rewires what it means to be human on a daily basis. Just compare the diets. For breakfast, a legacy human is eating massive amounts of carbohydrates. Kalen, he's eating a dense gray block of pure carbon, essential amino acids, and iron. It tastes like ash and metal, but it gives his body the exact physical mass it needs to build. If you or I got stranded in space, we'd starve and start consuming our own tissue in a matter of weeks. If Kalen gets stranded, as long as he has a single liter of heavy water, his body can enter a state of biological stasis for over 3 centuries. And because his brain doesn't have that 20% energy ceiling that our ATP-driven brains have, his neurons fire through direct bioelectrical induction. He can intuitively run incredibly complex deep learning algorithms right in his prefrontal cortex without even breaking a sweat. It's wild.
Section 3. Becoming a human reactor.
Now, all this incredible engineering isn't just for show. The true test of Homo stellaris comes when disaster strikes. The station's AI detects a catastrophic hull breach in Sector 4. A hydroponics bay is failing, and fragile, unmodified legacy humans are trapped inside. The atmosphere is venting into space, and the temperature is plummeting wildly toward negative 150 degrees Celsius. Kylan sprints to the sector at nearly 70 kilometers per hour, with his carbon-laced ligaments absorbing the heavy, hammer-strike thuds of his footsteps. He enters the bay without a pressure suit. He just doesn't need one. As the pressure drops to a vacuum, his pores seal mechanically, and specialized macromolecular carriers bind the dissolved gases in his blood so it absolutely doesn't boil. But the legacy humans in there are dying. Their chemical fires are utterly failing against the sheer cosmic cold. So Kalen triggers a conscious metabolic override. He literally focuses his mind on his fusosomes and orders the inhibitory enzymes to pull back. Burn, he commands his cells. And in a fraction of an instant, trillions of organelles accelerate the reaction rates. Millions of fusion events per microsecond scale up to billions and then trillions. The energy output is absolutely staggering. Kalen literally becomes a human star. His body temperature skyrockets to over 200 degrees Celsius. He kneels down beside the freezing legacy humans, wrapping his arms around them, bleeding excess thermal energy at a rate of several megawatts, just to keep them alive. It is this beautifully visceral moment. His skin is fluorescing with a golden blue aura. The ice on the floor is flash boiling, and the deck plating is literally melting beneath his boots. And the craziest part? It's all powered by a fraction of a milligram of heavy water, converting atomic mass directly into pure heat through Einstein's ancient equation, E equals mc squared. Eventually, the automated drones seal the breach, life support kicks back in, and Kalen dials his metabolism back down. The fusion events slow, and he just exhales a long, silent breath of hot helium.
Section 4. Leaving Earth behind.
Later that evening, Kalen kind of reflects on his biology. His heart beats only 10 times a minute, circulating this thick, synthetic fluorocarbon blood. He feels absolutely zero physical exhaustion because his body produces no lactic acid. A week prior to this, he got a bone-deep cut from a plasma torch, and he just watched it completely knit itself back together with carbon nanotubes in just 4 minutes, all fueled by hyper-accelerated cellular mitosis. And because cold fusion doesn't produce the oxidative stress that ages our chemical DNA, his telomeres are perfectly maintained. Basically, barring total physical destruction, Kalen possesses biological immortality. He could easily live for millennia.
But here is the tragic yet really fascinating irony of it all. Because of this absolute perfection, he is entirely decoupled from the biosphere. Kalen knows he could never safely walk through an ancient primeval forest back on Earth. His immense body heat would literally scorch the undergrowth to ash as he passed by. And because he exhales pure helium instead of carbon dioxide, he offers absolutely nothing back to the plant life. He just doesn't belong to the delicate, chemically dependent circle of life anymore. He belongs to the astrosphere.
Which really leaves us with this final staggering question to ponder. What happens to humanity when we conquer death, bring the fire inside, and trade the biosphere for the astrosphere? What kind of society will Homo stellaris build out there in the endless, freezing dark between the stars, when concepts like starvation and fatigue are just ancient myths? It is an absolutely incredible vision of our potential future, a future where we no longer just survive the universe, but physically become a part of its burning atomic engine.
Please like and subscribe.